Hey folks, Mike here from Ollie. So, is WordPress dead? Is this thing over? Should we go find different jobs? Maybe, possibly, yes, no, I don't know. I think there's some really great commentary happening, and for sure, this is going to be a big thing that hits our ecosystem just like it hits every single ecosystem out there. So, yeah, I thought we'd just talk a little bit about it today. It's been on my mind a lot, obviously. It's on everyone's mind, but particularly in how it affects both the ecosystem that I play in, that's WordPress, and I have a popular product in this space, and so how does it affect us as a product as well? So, um, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of tweets out there, not a lot, maybe a dozen, people saying WordPress is dead, and there's definitely something to that line of thinking. I get it, and oftentimes I feel like the people who are making those claims, there's like a very specific use case they use WordPress for. And oftentimes I don't even know who these people are actually. I'm not saying I know everyone, but it's often from people who are outside the ecosystem say that. And that makes sense too. Perception is king. People see WordPress one way, and then people who are in it every day, we see it, a little bit differently. But without that context, I see where they're coming from. At the same time, there are facts about WordPress, about its size and scale and reach that are important to the conversation. I don't even know what the numbers are. I should have pulled them up. But millions and millions and millions of WordPress sites out there. 100, 500 million or something, maybe. Maybe I'm just guessing from memory, but that's a ton of websites. And on top of that, it's just used in so many other ways that we maybe can't track. And sure, so maybe a bunch of those sites that I mentioned are dead sites or whatever. That's not the point. The point is that the reach WordPress has on the web is just almost immeasurable. It's so big. And that matters a lot when you talk about something about saying something like WordPress is dead. WordPress might be dead for your use case and your capability level, where you can go off and build the thing that you want and ditch your tools. I do it too. It feels awesome. But it totally leaves out of the conversation and context the many millions of people who use WordPress every day to run their sites that, like, they're not, you will never hear about these people. They are using them for very specific use cases and little sites, and they have their plugins and their tools that they use, and they know small businesses in corners of the world you could never even imagine. Um, AI is going to come along and cause a lot of disruption, but for years and years still, 10 years maybe, this kind of use of WordPress and how people use it, um, this is gonna last a while. These people aren't always just automatically gonna regenerate their sites on Astro or whatever. So, the long tail reach of WordPress is just it's incredible, and the size alone will keep it relevant, even if they didn't modernize it at all. Even if they did nothing except for where it's at right now, the block editor, site editor, and people just use that to, build their sites. I mean, huge publishers use WordPress as is. Pew Research, NASA, like, they all use it in these different ways. And of all the tools out there, they still choose this now, and there are very specific and serious reasons they do. This is not just like, "Oh, it's, like, the coolest," or whatever. Uh, they there are very specific standards that have to be met, and rules and security and compliance and all these things, and WordPress ends up in the mix because of things like that. All of these things kind of add together to a bigger picture of WordPress than I think most people have. And I'm not saying that to defend it or say we're doing everything right. That's just to add context of, like, that's how big this thing is. It is an operating system unto itself for part of the web, a large chunk of the web, like it or not. So all these cool AI tools are awesome, and I've used a bunch of them. They don't have that. They won't have that for a long time if they ever do. And they're private, and they're not open source, and that limits to a certain degree how they can grow. So all these things are true about WordPress. But the thing is, the WordPress core team is serious about AI and implementing it into WordPress. Very serious, very on the cutting edge. Despite what WordPress is now or how slow it's kind of moved or the perception of how it's moved, they are undoubtedly moving into AI super fast. Super fast. They're even like changed the scope of WordPress 7.0, at least it seems like they did, to accommodate AI over some other things. Some other things that I thought were, super important, like admin redesign and things like that. But they chose AI. So they are serious about it. And James and his team are on the cutting edge. They're always putting new stuff out there, trying new things, getting rid of things. Um, they are serious about making WordPress a place that AI lives and is native to and can work with. And this gets into how I've been thinking about WordPress and Ollie and how that fits into WordPress and what we have been. So if you think about WordPress as it has been as like a CMS, you can easily be like, yeah, that's irrelevant. AI could just create that or whatever. And maybe that's true for some people. I know a lot of people who don't want to build their own CMS. Many people, most people. Um, so when I think about WordPress and how it exists like in the AI world, I think of it less of like what it was or what it is now, but more of like what are the primitives of WordPress that are super valuable to this era? Well, we have dozens of APIs, good APIs, that have been battle tested for decades and built upon and extended. Like it's a pile of technology that has been actively maintained over time by thousands of people and made better and debated and put through the ringer. So all of that, when I think about all of those assets, then I think about WordPress as a more interesting like entity in the AI world. Like to an agent, like if WordPress is all the features of WordPress are exposed in their abilities API, and agents can very easily know how to do anything on a WordPress site, change posts, create pages, change settings. You could see a world where a person just describes the site they want, describes the scope. Maybe I need content management. I need to be able to add users, things like that. Well, the agent, instead of just creating their own thing, creating all this and burning tokens and energy and everything, they might just see WordPress as the node, the endpoint that they use to build the site. The user doesn't ever mess with WordPress. They don't have to hop in and do the admin onboarding, and they just talk to their agent. The agent changes it, and the agent just chose to do it in WordPress for all these reasons because they can do everything programmatically. It's been documented well for over 10 years. WordPress has so much information about it, so much. And the technologies that it has chosen are widely documented as well. So all of these things together, when I think about how an agent can work with WordPress and use it as the tool and not inundate the user, which I think is what a lot of people, their biggest complaint is, the user experience. When I think about it as a pile of technology like that, well, I don't think we can very quickly say WordPress is dead or make any kind of sweeping claims about it. But if I had to guess, based on the momentum so far, I would say WordPress as an open source platform that's about to be AI native is way more competitive than you think it is. And I think these platforms that are building really cool stuff like Astro and some of these other ones, which are awesome. I love using those things too for certain things. They're smart enough to know. They're looking at WordPress and watching what happens. To some degree they are. Um, so I don't know. I think there's some really interesting um kind of things to dig into there. So that's WordPress. And then as Ollie is a product in this space, we have to figure out how we fit into that as well. But we're kind of thinking about it just the same way we are WordPress. WordPress is like a node, an endpoint that is hit that has these resources that can be useful to agents. Ollie's the same thing. Within the WordPress ecosystem, Ollie will just be an MCP that you hit, that has a certain flavor of style, design, tools, extensions, and the agent will know how to work with those and build the site you want that way. So it's really, again, it goes back to the primitives. The primitives of Ollie are that we have like a really good design system and patterns and designs and templates that all fit together in unison. It's like an intelligent design system. So that bodes well for us because we're a lightweight modern product built with these kind of different primitive entities. That's super helpful for us and helps us scale and try different things. And we'll keep doing that. So the other important part about this growth for WordPress is that sure, the core team is doing this stuff and adding AI, but that doesn't matter much if the product ecosystem around it isn't rapidly evolving to start using it. Because agents, like the success of WordPress in an agent's eyes is probably that like it can pull off the thing it wants to do. But if 75% of the product ecosystem is using the old kind of plugin architecture and it's not exposed through abilities and things like that, it becomes less viable. So the product makers out there have to get serious about modernizing the products for this era so that within the WordPress ecosystem, we have this growing kind of AI agent-friendly product suite uh, alongside of it. That will be important. I'm seeing a little bit of it, but WordPress, especially these huge plugins, you know, I don't know if they have much incentive to change how things are. They're making good money. Uh, Change is hard. It's expensive. So, but if you are building a new product in this space, I would encourage you to think agent first. How can an agent work with this? Will it be able to? How can I simplify this thing down um, to something an agent can understand and easily do? How can I how can I simplify this feature down to basically data? You know, a data transaction. That's, I think, an important way of thinking about things too, because that's what this all is. So anyway, these are just some random ideas. I've been thinking about it a lot every day, and I know a lot of people are. So I would just say there's some words of encouragement for my fellow WordPress comrades. I would be less worried about what WordPress has been and maybe what that means for compared to everything else. I would say, look at this tech stack that we've built up over time, and how can we use that and modernize it and lean on that to grow into this new era, which is going to change things for the web like indefinitely. So yeah, I'm encouraged, and I'm out there building stuff in this space and trying to push the envelope in my own way, and then pushing some of those things to WordPress. And I think that's the way. We just got to get out there and do it ourselves and be clever and stay on the pulse and build and build and build and delete, iterate. That's just part of it. That's what we're doing. We're not sitting here just waiting to find out what happens. I'm not. I'm not sitting around waiting to see what happens. No, I'm changing the course as we go. That's just the way I'm wired, and I have to build. So I'm going to build. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. Let me know what you think. Doom or gloom? What do you think? Is WordPress doomed, or is this thing actually much more interesting than people are saying? All right. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. I'll see you in the next one.